The Last Stand. Commander Sarah Chen stood at the viewport of Orbital Station Delta, her reflection ghosting against the stars as Earth burned below. 6 months of relentless Krell attacks had reduced humanity's homeworld to a patchwork of devastation. Massive ion storms, the aftermath of Krell weaponry, painted the atmosphere in sickly greens and purples. "Commander," Lieutenant Rivera's voice cracked through her neural link. "The Krell fleet has breached the Kuiper defense line. Estimated arrival, 18 hours. Sarah's fingers traced the worn golden wings pinned to her collar, her father's wings, salvaged from the wreckage of his fighter after the Battle of Mars. Status of Project Wraith. Final calibrations complete. Dr. Patel requests your presence in Hangar E7. Sarah turned from the viewport, her boots clicking against metal decking as she strode toward the station's core. Personnel parted before her, offering crisp salutes tinged with desperate hope. They all knew what approached. 30,000 Krell warships, more than enough to finally break Earth's remaining defenses. The secure lift dropped 40 levels into the station's classified sectors. Dr. Patel waited at the bottom, her dark eyes bright with exhaustion and excitement. "It's ready, Sarah. The quantum matrix is stable." Together, they walked into the cavernous hangar. There, suspended in a cradle of gravitational fields, waited humanity's last hope. The Wraith didn't look like any other ship in Earth's arsenal. Its hull was a lattice of crystalline matrices and neural interfaces, more organic than mechanical. No weapons were visible on its surface. They weren't needed. The ship itself was the weapon. "The neural interface is calibrated to your specific brainwave patterns," Patel explained as they approached. "Once linked, you'll have direct control over the quantum displacement field. In theory, you'll be able to phase the entire ship out of normal spacetime." "In theory." Sarah raised an eyebrow. Patel managed a tired smile. "We're well past the luxury of complete certainty, Commander. The simulations show a 68% chance of success. The alternative is certain extinction." Sarah placed her hand on the hull, feeling the subtle vibration of power coursing through the crystalline structure. How many ships can it take on at once? The quantum field can affect anything within a 1,000-kilometer radius, but maintaining the field requires immense concentration. Too long in a phased state could lead to neural feedback. Meaning? Meaning it could fry your brain. Patel's expression hardened. "We're asking you to interface with technology we barely understand, Commander. The risks don't matter anymore." Sarah straightened her shoulders. "How soon can we launch?" Before Patel could answer, klaxons blared throughout the station. Lieutenant Rivera's voice echoed through the hangar. "Emergency alert. Krell Vanguard Force detected. They've developed a way through our quantum detection grid. Estimated arrival in 2 hours." Sarah was already moving toward the Wraith's access hatch. "Seems we're about to find out if your theories work, Doctor." "Sarah, wait." Patel caught her arm. "The neural calibrations aren't complete. Without proper synchronization, the feedback could kill you in minutes. Better a few minutes fighting back than watching Earth die." Sarah pulled free, climbing into the ship's neural interface chamber. As the hatch sealed behind her, she settled into the crystalline web that would link her consciousness to the ship's systems. Liquid neural interfaces flowed over her skin, cold at first, then warming as they established connection. Sarah gasped as her awareness expanded, encompassing every aspect of the Wraith. She could feel the quantum matrix humming through the crystalline hull, the potential energy waiting to be unleashed. "Neural interface stable," the ship's AI announced. "Warning. Synchronization at 67% of optimal levels. Neural degradation likely under combat conditions." "Noted." Sarah took a deep breath, letting her consciousness settle into the expanded awareness. "Station control, this is Wraith, requesting emergency launch clearance." Admiral Chen's voice, her mother's voice, came through the comm. "Clearance granted, Commander. Give them hell." The hangar's magnetic fields shifted, propelling the Wraith into space. Through the ship's sensors, Sarah could see the approaching Krell Vanguard, 100 massive warships, their biomechanical hulls bristling with weaponry. They moved with the precise coordination that made the Krell so lethal, their hive mind allowing them to fight as a single organism. "Let's see how they handle something new," Sarah whispered. She reached out with her expanded consciousness, touching the quantum matrix. Reality rippled around the wraith as the displacement field activated. The sensation was indescribable, like existing everywhere and nowhere simultaneously. The Krell detected her approach too late. The wraith phased through their formation, its quantum field disrupting the very fabric of space-time. Where the field touched Krell ships, matter simply ceased to exist, carved away by forces that defied physics itself. Pain lanced through Sarah's skull as the neural feedback began, but she pushed through it, maintaining the field as she turned for another pass. The Krell formation broke, individual ships trying to escape the impossible weapon that had just destroyed a dozen of their vessels. "Target their command ship," Sarah told the AI, fighting against the growing pressure in her mind. "Let's show them humanity isn't finished yet." The battle had begun, and with it, humanity's last chance for survival. But as Sarah guided the wraith through another attack run, she wondered if even this miracle of science would be enough to stop the full might of the Krell Dominion. She had 2 hours to find out, assuming her brain didn't burn out first. Through the quantum field's distortion, Earth's scared surface shimmered like a distant dream. Sarah Chen, daughter of heroes, and perhaps humanity's final defender, prepared to show the galaxy why humanity had survived every challenge it had ever faced. The Krell were about to learn that sometimes the most dangerous predator was the one backed into a corner. The real war was about to begin. Ghost in the dark. Space warped around the wraith as Commander Sarah Chen guided it through another attack run. Through the quantum field's distortion, the Krell ships looked like abstract paintings, their biomechanical hulls stretching and twisting in impossible ways. Neural degradation at 20%, the AI warned. Recommend deactivating quantum field for system reset. Sarah ignored the warning, focusing instead on the Krell command ship. The massive vessel dwarfed its escorts, its living hull pulsing with patterns of bioluminescence. As she watched, the patterns shifted from blue to angry red, a sign the Krell were adapting their tactics. "New energy signatures detected," the AI reported. "Krell vessels are generating localized gravity fields." The enemy formation suddenly contracted, the gravity fields creating a web of distorted space that would trap the wraith if it tried to phase through. Sarah smiled grimly. Clever, but not clever enough. She pushed her consciousness deeper into the ship's systems, ignoring the stabbing pain behind her eyes. The quantum field shifted frequency, transforming from a weapon into something else entirely. As the wraith approached the gravity web, it didn't try to phase through. Instead, it duplicated itself. A dozen phantom versions of the wraith appeared, each one a perfect quantum echo of the original. The Krell gravity web caught several echoes, their sensors unable to distinguish the real ship from its duplicates. Sarah drove the true wraith through a gap in their defenses, the quantum field carving through 3 Krell vessels before they could react. Neural degradation at 30%. "Commander, your vital signs are becoming erratic." Blood trickled from Sarah's nose as she maintained the quantum echoes, using them to confuse and split the Krell formation. The hive mind that made them so effective was now working against them. As each ship tried to track and engage a different phantom, their synchronized defense began to fall apart. "Command ship is attempting emergency translation," the AI announced. "Detecting quantum wake signature." "Oh no you don't," Sarah growled. She pushed the wraith's engines to maximum, ignoring the screaming protest of her overtaxed nervous system. The quantum field collapsed the phantom images, focusing all its power into pure speed. The Krell command ship's hull began to glow as it prepared to jump to quantum space. Sarah had seconds to act. She triggered the wraith's most dangerous capability, quantum entanglement. The ship's crystalline hull resonated at the exact frequency of the Krell vessel's quantum drive. For a moment, Both ships existed in a state of quantum uncertainty. Sarah felt her consciousness stretching, touching alien minds through the entanglement. The Krell hive mind recoiled in shock as it encountered human consciousness where none should exist. The feedback was immediate and devastating. The Krell command ship's quantum drive imploded, the carefully controlled translation turning into a cascading failure. The massive vessel broke apart from within, its hive mind connection broadcasting its death throes to every ship in the fleet. Sarah yanked the Wraith back to normal space as the command ship exploded, the quantum detonation taking out another dozen escorts in the process. The remaining Krell vessels fell into disarray, their hive mind temporarily fragmented by the loss of their command node. Neural degradation at 45%. The AI's voice seemed distant now. "Commander, you must disengage or risk permanent brain damage." Through blurring vision, Sarah saw the Krell vanguard retreating, their formation scattered and broken. But she also saw the quantum wake signatures of the main fleet, still advancing inexorably toward Earth. She had bloodied their nose, but the real fight hadn't even begun. "Station control," she managed through gritted teeth. "This is Wraith. Krell vanguard neutralized. 28 enemy vessels confirmed destroyed, remainder in retreat." She paused, wiping blood from her upper lip, requesting permission to maintain patrol vector. "Negative, Commander." Admiral Chen's voice was firm. "Return to base immediately for neural reset and system calibration. You've proven the weapon works. Now we need you alive to use it against their main force." Sarah wanted to argue, but the increasing pressure in her skull made it hard to form words. She let the quantum field fade completely, feeling her consciousness contract back to normal human awareness. The loss of the expanded sensation was like losing a limb. As the Wraith limped back to Orbital Station Delta, Sarah reviewed the battle data. The ship had performed beyond their wildest expectations, but the neural interface problems were worse than predicted. They had 16 hours before the main Krell fleet arrived. 16 hours to find a way to use the quantum drive without burning out her brain. Through the conventional viewport, Earth's wounded atmosphere shimmered with aurora-like patterns, the lasting scars of Krell weapons. Sarah remembered her father's last transmission from the Battle of Mars. Sometimes victory isn't about destroying the enemy. Sometimes it's just about surviving long enough to make them afraid. She had given the Krell their first taste of fear today. Soon, she would give them a reason to retreat. Humanity had one card left to play, and Sarah Chen intended to turn it into the biggest surprise in the history of interstellar warfare. The real question was, would her mind survive long enough to see it through? Breaking point. The neural reset took 3 hours, 3 precious hours while the Krell fleet continued its advance. Sarah Chen lay in the medical bay of Orbital Station Delta, her mind feeling hollow after the quantum interface disconnection. Dr. Petal stood beside her, reviewing neural scans with growing concern. "The damage is more extensive than we anticipated," Petal said, gesturing to the holographic display. "Your synaptic patterns show signs of quantum entanglement. It's as if your consciousness is trying to maintain the expanded state even without the interface." Sarah flexed her fingers, trying to shake the phantom sensation of being connected to the Wraith. "Can you fix it?" "Fix it? No, but we might be able to use it." Patel's eyes lit up with that dangerous gleam of scientific inspiration. "If your brain is naturally adapting to quantum states, we could modify the interface to work with these changes rather than fight them." A priority alert cut through their conversation. Admiral Chen's voice filled the medical bay. "All personnel to battle stations. Krell fleet has accelerated. New arrival estimate, 3 hours." Sarah was already pulling sensor leads from her temples. What about the neural modifications? Untested. Dangerous. Patil grabbed her tablet, fingers flying across the surface. But at this point, what isn't? They rushed to Hangar E7, where technicians swarmed over the Wraith like surgeon ants, implementing Patil's modifications in real time. The crystalline hull had changed, developing new patterns that pulsed with internal light. The ship's quantum matrix has evolved, Paddle explained as they approached. It's responding to the traces of entanglement in your neural patterns. I think it's trying to adapt to you as much as you've adapted to it. Sarah placed her hand on the hull, feeling a resonance she hadn't experienced before. How will this affect combat performance? Theoretically, the merged adaptations could extend your tolerance for quantum states, or it could accelerate the neural degradation. We're well beyond the bounds of known science. Station alarms blared again. On the tactical displays, thousands of Krell ships dropped out of quantum space, their formation filling the void between Earth and Mars. But something was different about their approach. They're not attacking, Sarah observed, studying the tactical plot. They're establishing a blockade formation. Admiral Chen's voice came through the command channel. They've learned to fear the Wraith. Now they'll try to wear us down. Force us to either watch Earth slowly starve or come out and face them on their terms. Sarah climbed into the Wraith's neural interface chamber, feeling the modified liquid interfaces flow over her skin. The connection was different this time, smoother, almost natural. Her consciousness expanded not with a shock, but with a sense of returning to a familiar state. Neural interface stable, the AI announced. Detecting enhanced quantum resonance patterns. Warning: effects of prolonged exposure unknown. Everything about this is unknown, Sarah replied. She guided the Wraith out of the hangar, studying the Krell blockade. 30,000 ships arranged in concentric spheres around Earth, each layer covering the gaps in the other's fields of fire. A perfect, three-dimensional kill box. They're waiting for us, Sarah told Station Control. And they've had time to analyze our capabilities. We won't surprise them again. Then don't surprise them, Admiral Chen replied. Terrify them. Sarah smiled, feeling the quantum field building around the Wraith. The modified systems hummed in perfect harmony with her thoughts, power flowing like water through the crystalline lattices. Time to show them what humanity does when backed into a corner. She accelerated toward the Krell line, watching their formation shift to track her approach. This time, they were ready for quantum phasing, for phantom images, for all the tricks she used before, but they weren't ready for what the Wraith had become. As Sarah's consciousness merged more deeply with the ship's evolved systems, she felt something new emerging, a synthesis of human intuition and quantum mechanics that defied explanation. The Wraith wasn't just a weapon anymore. It was becoming something else entirely. And the Krell were about to discover that the most dangerous predator wasn't the one with the biggest fleet or the most advanced technology. It was the one that could evolve faster than its enemies could adapt. The final phase of the battle for Earth was about to begin, and Sarah Chen intended to rewrite the laws of physics to secure humanity's survival. The heart of the storm. The Wraith streaked toward the Krell blockade, a ghost of quantum fire against the void. Through her enhanced connection with the ship, Sarah Chen perceived space itself differently now, not as an empty vacuum, but as a fabric of possibilities, each quantum state a thread she could weave or unravel. Multiple targeting locks detected, the AI reported. Krell vessels are generating overlapping disruption fields. The first wave of Krell fire erupted, not energy weapons this time but exotic particles designed to collapse quantum fields. They'd learned from their previous defeat, adapting their weapons to counter the Wraith's phasing ability. Sarah didn't try to evade. Instead, she let the attacks hit. The particle beams struck the Wraith's quantum field and shattered, but not in the way the Krell intended. Each disruption created new quantum states, multiplicities that Sarah's evolved consciousness could perceive and manipulate. The Wraith didn't phase through space anymore. It phased through reality itself. Impossible energy readings, the AI announced. Commander, the ship's quantum matrix is resonating with your neural patterns in ways we never predicted. Sarah felt it, a synergy between human consciousness and quantum mechanics that transform theory into reality. The Wraith split into quantum echoes, but these weren't mere images. Each echo existed in a slightly different quantum state, simultaneously real and unreal. The Krell fired again, their hive mind coordinating a perfect web of destruction. But they were targeting where they thought the Wraith would be, not understanding that it existed in multiple states at once. Sarah let her consciousness flow through these states, striking from angles that shouldn't exist. Krell ships began to disintegrate, their matter scattered across quantum possibilities. The blockade formation wavered as the hive mind struggled to comprehend what it was facing, but maintaining multiple quantum states took its toll. Neural degradation accelerating. The AI warned. Quantum resonance is affecting base reality around the ship. Blood flowed freely from Sarah's nose now, and darkness crept at the edges of her vision. But she pressed on, diving deeper into the quantum maelstrom. Through the neural interface, she sensed something massive approaching. The Krell Supreme Command Ship, larger than anything they'd previously encountered. Wraith, return to base immediately. Admiral Chen's voice cut through the quantum static. Your neural patterns are becoming dangerously unstable. No, Sarah's voice was steady despite the pain. They've committed their command ship. This is our chance to end it. The Supreme Command Ship's hull rippled with living metal, its surface covered in quantum sensors and reality warping weapons. It was a match for the Wraith in every way except one. It lacked a human mind capable of embracing quantum uncertainty. Sarah drove the Wraith straight toward it, letting her consciousness expand until she could feel the fabric of space-time stretching around her. The pain was extraordinary now, but it didn't matter. Nothing mattered except finishing this. The Krell command ship fired its main weapon, a beam of concentrated quantum nullification that should have erased the Wraith from existence. Instead, Sarah used it, letting her ship's quantum field resonate with the attack frequency. For a moment that stretched into eternity, the Wraith existed in all possible states simultaneously. Then Sarah collapsed all those possibilities into a single devastating reality. The unified quantum collapse created a cascade effect that rippled through the Krell command structure. Ships connected to the hive mind found their quantum states entangled with the collapse, matter and energy rewriting themselves in ways that defied physics. Warning, the AI's voice seemed to come from very far away. Neural patterns approaching critical degradation. Emergency protocols initiated. Sarah barely heard it. Through the quantum field, she could feel the Krell hive mind reeling, its carefully ordered reality shattered by human determination and impossible science. For the first time in their species' history, the Krell knew fear not just of defeat, but of facing something they couldn't understand. The blockade was breaking. Thousands of Krell ships, their command structure in chaos, began emergency quantum translations away from Earth. But Sarah's consciousness was breaking too, stretched too thin across too many quantum states. As darkness closed in, she had one final thought. She'd proven that humanity's greatest strength wasn't technology or numbers, but its ability to look into the impossible and make it real. The Wraith, guided by failing neural commands, turned back toward Earth. Sarah Chen, daughter of heroes and now a legend herself, had shown the galaxy why you should never corner a species that turned its own imagination into a weapon. The question was, would she survive to see what she'd accomplished? Legacy of humanity. Sarah Chen floated in darkness, her consciousness adrift in quantum possibilities. Fragments of reality flickered through her mind, the Wraith's crystalline hull glowing with impossible energies, the Krell fleet scattering across space, her mother's voice calling her name through layers of static. Neural patterns stabilizing. A familiar voice cut through the chaos. She's coming back. Light returned slowly. Sarah found herself in the medical bay of Orbital Station Delta, Dr. Patel's concerned face hovering above her. The scientist's eyes were red from lack of sleep, but she managed to smile. "Welcome back, Commander. You've been unconscious for 3 days." Sarah tried to speak, found her throat too dry. Patel offered her water through a straw. The Krell. She finally managed. Gone. Admiral Chen stepped into view, still in her uniform, but looking as tired as Patel. Their entire fleet retreated beyond the Kuiper Belt. Long-range sensors show them regrouping, but they're not advancing. For the first time since this war began, they're afraid. Sarah closed her eyes, remembering the sensation of existing across multiple quantum states. The memory felt distant now, like a dream slowly fading. "The Wraith. Change," Paddle said softly. "Like you changed it. The quantum matrix has evolved into something our instruments can barely comprehend. It's still functional, but different. We think it adapted itself to protect your mind during the final engagement." Sarah tried to sit up, but her mother's gentle hand on her shoulder kept her down. "Rest, Sarah. You've done enough. More than enough." "They'll be back," Sarah said. "The Krell don't accept defeat easily." "No," Admiral Chen agreed, "but they'll come back differently. Our quantum sensors detected massive changes in their hive mind structure during that final battle. You didn't just defeat them, Sarah. You forced them to evolve." Dr. Paddle brought up a holographic display showing the Wraith in its dock. The ship's crystalline hull pulsed with new patterns, more organic than mechanical now. "We're detecting quantum echoes of your consciousness still resonating within its systems." The merge between human mind and quantum mechanics created something entirely new, something that could change everything we know about reality itself. And something, Admiral Chen added, that the Krell will have to consider before they attack Earth again. They know now that humanity isn't just another species to be conquered. We're something unique in the galaxy, a species that turns its own limitations into strengths. Sarah thought about the quantum states she'd experienced, the way human consciousness had done what the Krell hive mind couldn't, embrace uncertainty and possibility instead of trying to control it. What happens now? Now, her mother smiled. Now we rebuild. We study what you and the Wraith became together. And we prepare for the day when the Krell return. Not as conquerors this time, but maybe as something else. You showed them a new way of perceiving reality. That's not something they can ignore. Through the medical bay's viewport, Sarah could see Earth below. The ion storms were beginning to clear, revealing glimpses of blue ocean and green land beneath the scared atmosphere. Humanity had survived, not through overwhelming force or superior numbers, but through its unique ability to adapt, to imagine, to transform theory into reality. "The Wraith," she said, "I can still feel it, like an echo in my mind." Patel nodded. "The quantum entanglement between your consciousness and the ship's systems created something permanent. You rewrote the laws of physics together. That's not something that just goes away." "Good." Sarah closed her eyes, feeling the distant resonance of quantum possibilities. "Because we're going to need every advantage we can get. This isn't over. It's just changing into something new." Admiral Chen took her daughter's hand. "And if there's one thing humanity does better than any species in the galaxy, it's dealing with change." As Sarah drifted back to sleep, she smiled. The Krell had come expecting to find a primitive species clinging to its homeworld. Instead, they'd encountered humanity's greatest weapon, its ability to look into the impossible and make it real. They would be back, but not as the same beings who had first attacked Earth. And humanity would be ready, armed with new understandings of physics and consciousness that blurred the line between science and miracle. In the hangar below, the Wraith's crystalline hull pulsed with quantum fire, its evolved systems resonating with the expanded consciousness of its pilot. Together, they had shown the galaxy that humanity's greatest strength wasn't in its weapons or technology, but in its ability to transform itself to meet any challenge. The war might be over, but humanity's journey into quantum possibilities was just beginning.